Hello, and welcome to the Designing with Love podcast. I am your host, Jackie Pelegrin, where my goal is to bring you information, tips, and tricks as an instructional designer. Hello, instructional designers and educators. Welcome to episode 56 of the Designing with Love podcast. I'm thrilled to have Grant Fullenbach, the founder of Go First Consulting, with me today. Welcome, Grant.
Hey, Jackie. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on today and being interviewed for the podcast. My listeners will love it.
Yeah,
Great.
hope so.
Yes. So to start, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and share what led you to focus on consulting professional builders and remodelers so that you can help streamline their operations?
Yeah, totally. So my background, it's a little bit different than a lot of other people in this space. I actually come from like the world of drones. So I worked for a drone company for a long time that specialized in software that used drone imagery, and then it took that imagery and created 3D models that you could essentially measure off of, build commercial buildings or ag or really anything from. And through that experience, not only did I get my hands on some pretty cool applications for, just this world of like what's called VDC or visual design construction, but also it opened up my eyes in a lot of ways towards gaps that builders of all sizes generally struggle with. And that's kind of where I found my, for lack of a better term, calling, which is helping to build operating systems for builders and for people in the trades who can take that love of crafting things and building things and actually make it scale so that they can build the type of business that they actually want to work in and work for, rather than having that just act as another job, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does. And that way they're not constantly trying to grow the business and trying to do that day-to-day operation. They can focus on the individuals within the company, right? And cultivate those relationships and do that. And hopefully that day-to-day operations kind of helps take care, it can be automated, systematic in some ways, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's kind of my, I don't know. The thing I'm best at, I guess, is helping to scale automation. So every role I've had in my 9-to-5 jobs up to this point has been director of sales operations or revenue operations or go-to-market. So that usually revolves around teaching salespeople how to use their tools. And that is one of the hardest things to do, especially when, it's kind of teaching an old dog new tricks, but teaching an old dog Salesforce.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's hard to help people pivot, right? And to embrace new technology, new methods, new systems. Yeah, that can be hard. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, definitely. And so you say that most businesses are trapped in that operational chaos, which is kind of what you mentioned there. So can you break down what that chaos actually looks like on a day-to-day basis, and what maybe the single biggest, often most overlooked cost that is associated with that?
Oh, yeah. That's a great question. So what that usually looks like is the owner operator. That's usually who we work with. People who've either started the company or who were on the ground floor of it, but the company's done well enough that they've scaled past 1.5 million in annual revenue. With the operational chaos, what that usually means, though, is they have a pretty firm understanding of their existing project pipeline. So what projects they're actively working on, but they don't have a good idea of how do I grow this from here? We're kind of plateauing, hitting status quo. Where are my gaps? They don't most often they don't understand what is required to get to that next level, as well as how they might have a rough idea of how they're currently doing, but they don't have a really specific dialed in report or dashboard that shows here's all the levers that you actually need to pull in order to make sure you hit your revenue goals next month or next quarter.
Okay, so you use maybe something like a stoplight method, maybe, where it's like red is like, this is not healthy, you're not doing good here. Yellow is where they're kind of there, but they need to get to that, and then green is maybe where they're doing really well.
Yeah,
kind of like
exactly. One of the things that I developed is it's actually a scoreboard, I call it the Critical 19. And it's literally just a set of metrics that the builder, remodeler, or the owner operator plugs in every week. And it tells you, you nailed it, exactly that. It's green, yellow, and red. And it tells you if you're on pace, i.e. in yellow, if you're exceeding expectations in green, or if you're below expectations in red. And it also tells you where that gap is and how to overcome it for next week.
Wow, that's really great. And I can see that applying to other industries too, right? Like education and like higher education, K through 12, looking at, those, because metrics are used in so many industries. So I can see that method really working well. And then you could even take that method, right, and kind of pivot it and adapt it for other industries too. So that's really great.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Even manufacturing, I could see it working really well for manufacturing, right? As well.
Yeah. I mean, the manufacturing, that's where we got Kanban and Agile and lots of different project management methodologies.
Right. Exactly. And it's interesting too, because in instructional design, we use those methods. We use Agile methods. So for example, there's a certain model called the SAM model, Successive Approximation Model. So we have the usual adding model, which is the analysis, design, development, implementation, evaluation. But it's a systematic model. It's been around since the 1960s. But the hard part about that is that you usually can't move to the next until you finish one. And so if you have an agile team that thrives on that collaboration and that fast pace where it's like, yeah, we need to turn this around in 4 weeks and not 12, which a lot of businesses are like that, then SAM actually takes that and it breaks it down into 3 phases where you prototype, you iterate, you work. And so that can work well in any industry, but it's really great. And there's also rapid prototyping where you do that prototyping and you work with your collaborators and your subject matter experts, and they call it dirty design, where you're just basically giving them a rough design and saying, here, this is just rough. No technology really used. You're just, even if you just sketch it on paper, you're doing that dirty design, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just something workable that you're doing with them. So yeah. So when you mentioned that, it just made me think of those rapid development models with that and agile models. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Iteration, if you can pull it off, rapid iteration is so tremendously valuable in pretty much everything you do,
right,
as a business owner.
Absolutely. Because then, with those rapid iterations, you're not waiting until the end to make big changes and then having to spend money and time trying to repurpose something or redo something, because I've done that in the past with training and e-learning, and it's cost so much money. And then I've learned the hard way, when someone was like, oh, I forgot to tell you we needed this change. And I'm like, that means I need to re-record the whole entire simulation now, which is going to take me another 3 or 4 days. And that takes time away from another project. So as they say, time is money. And I remind people of that all the time. I'm like, if you want me to spend extra time on this, that means that's taking away from something else that I could be doing. So
in construction, it's the same concept. It's just called scope creep.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we use that all in education too. Scope creep.
Oh,
Yep. Where you have a certain scope of what you're working on, and then all of a sudden, one more thing. Oh, we want one more thing added to this, and then the one more thing, becomes 5, 10 things, and you're like, oh my goodness. And it's I have one particular director that oversees one of the programs, and she's like, can we just do this little thing? And I'm like, but your thing that you think is little is not little to us because it has a ripple effect. It affects
That's
everything.
right.
Yeah. So true. Yeah. It's neat how, you can take those methodologies and those techniques and use them across different industries, and you can see the commonality and the common thread between them.
Do you guys use, out of curiosity, do you use like Gantt charts quite a bit to visualize that? Like to show that director the ripple effect of what they're asking?
Yes, we do. Yeah. So I love Gantt charts because it's a way to show, who's responsible for what. And if we move something, like you said, if we move a timeline or a date, this is how it affects everything. Yeah. And so it's interesting because we'll let them know. Yeah. If we are delayed in getting a textbook, then we can't run the course, and then it's going to impact the students. It's going to impact the faculty. So yeah, all the materials, if they're not there, just like with construction, if you don't have all your materials in place, you can't build a house. It's not going to pass inspection. So, I use that analogy quite a bit of the building of a house. And that's how we have to treat training and professional development, as you start with the foundation first, you build that. And so I use the house analogy all the time, but building a house. Yeah. Because people can relate to it.
There's an Instagram reel I found a long time ago. And I forget who said it, but I really loved it. He used building the house analogy too. And he's like, if you look at the timeline of building a house, you'll see that the vast majority of that time is actually spent on the foundation. And once you in terms of doing survey work around the topo or around the plot, making sure the ground is level, digging the hole, pouring the concrete, putting in the rebar, all of that takes the most amount of time. And then putting up everything else is kind of secondary.
Right.
And in the reel, he said it a lot more glamorously than that, but it just resonated with me.
Yeah, that's so true. Because if you don't have a solid foundation, then the rest is just not going to work. It's going to fall apart. Yeah, that's so true. And that's true in education and, all those things. Yeah, if you don't have a solid foundation, it's kind of everything else, all the materials, all the other stuff is just kind of, doesn't really matter much. It doesn't hold weight really. So
nice.
Yeah, I love that. So I read too on your website and that you have this solution, which is a unique blend of that proven systems plus that practical AI. So can you give a real world example of a standard training process that becomes more powerful once that practical AI tool is applied to it?
Yeah, absolutely. And this one, this is probably my favorite one because it's applicable across any industry and it's currently free. And it's a Google tool that they released, I don't know, maybe like a year ago, but they constantly make iterations talking about that to it. And it's called Notebook, if your audience is familiar with it. Yeah. But what's really neat about it is you can upload any type of source into it. Notebook's an AI model that, unlike ChatGPT or Gemini or Grok or any of those, it isn't a large language model. It's a RAG model, and that stands for retrieval augmented generation.
Oh, okay.
So basically, in less nerdy terms, it, unlike ChatGPT, where if you plug in a PDF into your Knowledge Hub and ask it something, it's not only using that article, but it's also using the web. It's using its own context. It's really impossible to tell where that data came from in its answer. Notebook is different because it will generate an answer only using the sources that you input. So if you're talking about a course, like one of the courses that you teach, if you input it in your syllabus, your course materials, the transcripts from all of your lectures, relevant YouTube videos or, other sources, you essentially now have a knowledge hub of everything that's shareable for that course. and then you can do a handful of things with it. You can turn it into a mind map. You can turn it into a study guide, a full video if you want to watch a movie about that concept, a podcast. Just the applications with that are tremendous for knowledge sharing.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. Yeah. It sounds like it's a really powerful tool to be able to do that. And the fact that it doesn't cost anything, I think is really great too. Yeah. Wow.
And I mean, there's a full, just like there is with anything, there's a pretty active subreddit community for Notebook LM. And that's one of the few that I follow very religiously, because people are always building tools and Chrome extensions and add-ons for it. Just as an example, I found one last week that allows you to basically scrape full YouTube playlists and upload it to a single notebook. So as an example, if this show was on YouTube, I could go and grab every video that was recorded and plug it into a notebook, and then turn that into a study guide around, what are the best practices from all of the interviews Jackie's done with this show.
Wow. That's amazing. Wow. Because I've done interviews for 2 years, so that's a lot of it's a lot of content, right? Yeah. To be able to put it in a digestible format, I think really helps. Yeah. That's good for students, for faculty to kind of say, here's what's coming out of it. Here's the common themes and everything that's coming out of that. Wow. That's great. And so you use it for your business too, right? With clients.
Yeah. So every relationship I start with a new client, I'll actually create a new notebook for that client. And in there, I'll, have any meeting transcript, project scopes, our pricing proposal, contracts, anything that's relevant. I'll actually host it into that notebook. And then, so if I run into a question or an issue or anything, I can quickly say, when was the last time I spoke with Jackie? What did we chat about? What are the next steps? And it will reference everything it knows about our relationship and create a little answer.
Wow. I love that. So that's better than even like tools like OneNote, or there's other tools out there too, but we use OneNote at work. But it's OneNote's kind of limited because they do have a web-based version, but it's limited what you can search and what you're able to do with it. So it has its limitations. So it sounds like that is even more robust because you can cross-reference things and conversations. Yeah.
Totally.
That's great. Yeah.
I mean, it's not, they're like tools like OneNote or Obsidian or Evernote, if anybody uses Evernote anymore. Those are awesome for, note-taking and sharing just documents, I think. But, and Notebook is a great tool for, I guess, they could be used like together, mutually symbiotically, I guess, if you want to use that word.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
That's the cool thing about Notebook is it's not really like a true competitor to a lot of note-taking apps. It's more of, I guess, like a knowledge sharing app more than anything else.
It can serve as a companion to what you already use. Yeah. So it's not necessarily a replacement for it. So that's good. Yeah, because when we were trying to figure out what kind of collaboration tool to use at our company, we ended up going with Trello. And that's a agile type of method too, because you can do Gantt charts and stuff like that. And it was really funny because I've done OneNote training sessions and professional development sessions for the 14 years, I think, or so, however long I've been with the company, 11 years. But even before that, I was doing sessions on that. And someone said to me, well, will Trello replace OneNote? And I said, no. No tool replaces another. It's just they complement each other. One is good for one, and you can find the benefits for each one, and then you adapt and you use the one that works for your situation. And so it's really, really neat. And now Microsoft has something similar to Trello. And I don't know if you've seen that, but it's got like the feature of like the boards and the cards. And what's really nice is that we collaborate with subject matter experts and individuals at the colleges and plus ourselves. And so if we have outside people, it's really hard because of IT security. It's hard to share all of that. We can't share SharePoint documents because those are housed internally. So being able to have a tool like Trello is really helpful, but there's limitations to what Trello can do. So we want to be able to take some of that brainstorming and all of that and be able to have that automatically feed into the tools that we use to build the courses, build the program. So having a Microsoft tool is really nice because then we can share it out and we can say, okay, you're not associated with Grand Canyon University, but that's okay. We can give you access, and you're not having access to all of our systems, but just that select amount. So that's what's great about the technology and how they've been able to do that. So it's pretty neat, but it just takes that those extra layers of IT security to get past all of that. And I'm sure you've gone through that too with different companies, being able to get access to information and trying to share that and with their proprietary information, so it takes some hoops to jump through to get it. But I'm sure once you get it, it's really helpful to have that. That's
honestly one of the biggest hurdles or objections we usually run into with anyone that we work with is, how secure are these tools? And that's one thing that we really prioritize too, just because we know how important security is. And almost everything we work with is either SOC 2 compliant or equivalent,
Right. That's important. Yeah. Especially if you've got, competitors in the area that are all competing for, for customers and competing for, that prized, client that they want themselves, for the builders and all of that, and be able to have that competitive advantage. They don't want that getting out there. So that's so important. Absolutely. Yeah. That's great. So, we talked a little bit about training. So we all know how much of a difference the right training can make. And before the interview, we talked about just-in-time training. So can you share an example of a tool that you've used that makes delivering that just-in-time training easier? Hello, I have some exciting news to share with all of my listeners. There is a feature called Fan Mail. What this allows you to do is send me a text message anytime during the episode. There's a link located at the top of the description in each episode, and it says send Jackie a text message. So when you click on that link, you'll be able to send me a message letting me know what you thought about the episode and if you have any ideas for future episode content as well. I look forward to seeing your text messages. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So in construction or in most industries, there's always this, driver of creating SOPs for your most important workflows, or, talking about like what we were just chatting about. How do you use Trello and OneNote together, right? That workflow of these tools are companions, but how do they actually work together? What's the best practice for turning that into a document or a video or something that's tangible to whoever needs to understand it and actually act on that data or that knowledge, I guess. And so just-in-time learning or JIT learning is really interesting, but it's very applicable to construction when you have a bunch of contractors or subcontractors out on a job site, and you really want to make sure that they're following best practice when installing a window or installing insulation or maintaining the job site cleanliness or OSHA. There's so many different things.
Right.
And not to go back to that tool, but Notebook is actually a killer tool for that too, because you can really upload all of your SOPs if they're in a more standardized format, or even if they're in a video, into a shared notebook. And as long as all of your subs have access to it, and I've actually built a few apps just built off of Notebook itself. And as long as all of your subs have access to that notebook, if and when they run into an issue, they could literally just open up the app, type in a prompt. How do I install this quartz countertop? How do I measure it using the laser measure, whatever it is?
Right.
And the notebook model will actually tell them the answer based off of the sources or those SOPs that were inputted.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. So it's one of those things that it is a phenomenal way to transfer knowledge. The hardest part with that, as it is with any tool, is consistency. Is making sure that people know how to find the answers themselves effectively.
Right, exactly. Because you want to give them that autonomy, right, to find it and not have to always rely on asking their supervisor or something like that, but being able to have that autonomy and to be able to have that self-directed learning is so important. Yeah. And then if they can't find the answer, they go to their supervisor or something like that and say, hey, I still can't find what I'm looking for. I just want to make sure I'm doing this right before I actually install this or fix this. Yeah, exactly. Because they know if they don't do it right, then they have to go back and redo it. Right. And then that's added costs at time. So, and I'm sure the supervisor would not be happy about that if they messed it up and then they had to redo it. So I mean, can't imagine.
The call I just had before this, a client of mine, she's telling me a story of a kitchen remodel, and it's all marble countertops, and it looks gorgeous now. But what she was telling me is that the contractor actually had to eat like a $27,000 cost because they had a marble countertop measured out for the island instead of the countertop, and so they cut out essentially the space for the grill in the space that was supposed to be for the sink. And
oh my gosh.
It's one of those things, if you just slowed down and remeasured or made sure that you were doing it correctly, or even pulled out notebook, it was like, am I doing this correctly? You literally would have saved yourself more than $27,000.
That's a big mistake. Yeah. A costly mistake. Yeah, definitely. Wow. I'm sure somebody got their, shoot out after that. Yeah.
But it's also one of those things too, it's like the amount of like boxes that and items that should be checked off before you go to cut or before you go and literally execute or act on a project. The amount of things that need to be checked off or should be checked off, I would say, should be different between a project like that and even, replacing a doorknob,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, exactly.
Not all tasks should be classified the same in your to-do list.
Right. That's so true. Yeah. Yeah. There's that saying of, measure twice, cut once, right? Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. And that's true in a lot of things. We think of it in construction and things like that, but I tell that to people on my team all the time. I'm like, let's make sure we measure twice and cut once, because we don't want to have to go back and redo work again. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. I love that. That's a great idea. Be able to have that information there. And it brought to mind like microlearning. Microlearning is such a huge thing, and it's so effective because you can give people that bite-sized training on the go. I'm sure they have tablets, right, that they can pull up the information so it's readily available on the job for them, so that they can be on site and just pull up what they need when they need it. So I'm sure that makes it really helpful too.
Absolutely. Wow. Yeah. And even just documenting the work done too, right. Being able to share, this is what we did yesterday. And then, iterate on that, saying, the electrician installed 3 new outlets. Okay. So now I need to learn how to say, like, install the drywall or whatever around those outlets.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess just not only absorbing, but also being able to organize and understand like what you need to learn and what you need to know next is really, really cool.
Yeah, I like that. Those are great tips. Absolutely. Of being able to deliver that training right then and there, and using those tools to be able to make it happen so that it's accessible for all the individuals that are working on those projects. Yeah, that's great. Wonderful. So as we wrap up, what are your top tips or advice for listeners who are looking to transition into instructional design or maybe even training? Maybe they're just starting out in the field. What are some of those tips and advice you could share?
Number one, I mean, we're in this age of AI that we're currently in. It's easier than ever to document. So whether you're in a course or you're out in a field, or just try and document your learnings and then put them somewhere that you're consistently using, whether it's OneNote or Notebook or, Google Drive. Just get into a consistent rhythm of documenting things that you learned today. Like, I used to do this. I need to do more of it, but I used to post on Instagram once a day a TIL, which was today I learned. And just, do that. You don't even have to post on Instagram. Just do it for yourself. And that will give you so many dividends in the future.
I like that. It's kind of like at the end of the day, sometimes people say, what were 3 good things that happened today? So That's kind of that mantra, except you're doing, what did I learn today? I like that, TIL. That's cool. Yeah. Especially in the world of acronyms, it's nice to be able to, reference that and know what that is. Yeah. I love that.
Another one, my brother always asks this on all of our birthdays, and it's essentially, what was your rosebud and thorn? And so it's like, what was really good? What are you working towards or excited about? And what was a bad thing?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, because then you can take that there's always going to be the ups and the downs. So being able to recognize both, and then, maybe even the thing that wasn't so good, what can you do to make it better, right? Work towards making it a good thing. I like that. Love that. Great. Well, thank you so much, Grant, for sharing your insights today. So your experiences, tips, and expertise are definitely going to inspire my listeners.
Good. Yeah, I'm happy. I mean, I love talking about this, so we could talk all day.
Yeah, exactly. And especially making the correlation between what I do and what you do, and looking for those commonalities. There's so much in common. So I love that. And so it's wonderful. And, who knows, some of my students may go into a company that's construction or something like that, and work on instructional design or training for that. So there's always instructional designers needed everywhere. So it's a growing field in every industry. So yeah,
I mean,
great.
We always need to learn.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. We're always on a learning journey. Mm-hmm. Great. Thanks again, Grant. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for taking some time to listen to this podcast episode today. Your support means the world to me. If you'd like to help keep the podcast going, you can share it with a friend or colleague, leave a heartfelt review, or offer a monetary contribution. Every act of support, big or small, makes a difference, and I'm truly thankful for you.